Okay, so we're going to be taking an equation in standard form. So standard form, just to remind you, looks like this. This is the general format. AX plus BY equals C. Okay? And we're going to convert it through the power of algebra to slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. And the reason we want to do that is if we have an equation in slope-intercept form, it's very easy to graph. We know the slope. We know one point that's on the line, the y-intercept. We can graph it. So yeah, that's our goal for today. So let's start with this equation. So the first equation as an example that we're going to do is negative 3x plus 2y equals 8. And through some steps, we're going to convert this to y equals 3 over 2, 3 halves, x plus 4. So this and this are the same. It's the same linear equation. I know that they don't look at all the same. It's like someone called, uh, what is it? Well, they don't. William, if you're named William, sometimes they'll call you Bill. Same person, different, just a little different. Okay? So let's go ahead and see how this happens. Let's write, I'm going to recopy this equation, negative 3x plus 2y equals 8. Okay? So here's the standard form equation, and I want to make this look like this. It's going to happen. Watch. First thing we want to do is we want to remove our x term. We want to get rid of that. It has to be on the other side. Okay? So whenever we want to remove a whole term, we add the opposite. So what's the opposite of negative 3x? Plus or positive 3x. So on both sides, write down plus 3x there. And on the other side of the equal sign, I don't have much choice. I have to put it underneath the 8 because there's no x term to match it with. But we're going to do something with it. Okay. So on the side over here, let's write down that step. So we have a couple of steps we're going to do, 2 of them. So you just have to learn how to do 2 steps. And that first step is add the opposite of the x term on both sides. Add the opposite of the x term on both sides. Okay. And so that's what we did here. I saw negative 3x. I said the opposite is positive 3x. Because what's going to happen when you add opposites, in particular negative 3x and positive 3x? They cancel out. They make a 0. And usually we don't write the 0. We just say they're gone. Okay, let's bring down what's left. 2y. Oh, okay. Let's see. 2y. Oops. I'm going to use black. 2y equals. This is the part that gets a little confusing. Have you ever had like some oil in a jar or something, and then you pour water? What happens? Huh? The oil flows, right? It doesn't mix together. Have you ever seen that? Oil and water, they usually don't mix. They stay separate. And if you leave them, you might see a layer of oil and a layer of water, depending on which is heavier. So that's what we have here. We have a constant, okay? This is a constant. That means it's just a number. And then we have a variable term, but I'll just write variable. They don't mix. You can't add them and make one thing. They stay separate, okay? Just remember that. They don't mix. If I had 8x and 3x, I can add them. If I had 8 and 3, I can add them. But because one is a constant, one's a variable, they stay separate. So the way I'm going to write this is 3x, and since 8 is positive, plus 8. If it would have been negative, it would have been minus 8. So just keep them separate, okay? Now, we're almost there. If you could see what it should look like. The only thing that's here on this one that's not here is what number? Well, no, just on this side, on the left side. 2, right? I have 2y. I just want y. Think about this. You're multiplying 2 times y. If I want to undo that multiplying, what do I do? Divide. So next step is to divide. Okay? So I'm going to write that down. Divide the coefficient of y on both sides. Remember, whatever we do on one side, we have to do to the other. What is the coefficient of y? What number is in front of y? 2. So let's divide by 2. We're going to divide by 2 everywhere, though. Okay? So we have to get rid of the 2 and 2y by dividing by 2. So 2 2's, or 2 divided by 2, is 1, right? And 1 times y is y. So basically, it cancels. And I'm left with y equals, well, I got a fraction here, right? 3 halves. Can I reduce 3 halves? Nope, that's as reduced as it's going to be. So just leave it as 3 over 2 x. Okay, I got 8 divided by 2. I could divide that, right? Yeah. Becomes 4. And since it's positive, plus 4. And if you notice, now they're identical. Okay? And the advantage with this other equation in slope-intercept form, it's easy to graph. I know where to put 1 point. I know where to put 1 or 2 more points, and I can graph the line. Okay? Any questions? Okay, so we're going to practice with 3 of them. That's where your scratch paper or that strip is going to come in handy. So have this handy. We're going to be doing some graphing in a little bit. Okay. So let's get to it. Any questions? Okay. So it does require all of our algebra skills that we've been using previously. And so let's go ahead and rewrite in slope-intercept form. So that's the directions. And slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Okay? So let's write down our first equation. And we're going to start off with 2x rather. Let me just make that an x. Minus y equals 5. So go ahead and write that down. 2x minus y equals 5. All right. So first step, add the opposite of the x term on both sides. My x term is 2x. I need its opposite. Minus. Minus or negative 2x. And we're going to do that on both sides. Okay. So let's see what happens after that. So again, if I'm combining 2x and negative 2x, if I add them up, what do they make? They cancel out because there's 0. Now, what do I bring down on the left side now? What do I have here now? Negative y. Yeah, I'm going to put the x part first. So I'm going to write negative 2x. And since this is positive 5, it's plus 5. Okay? Okay. So now the second part is divide the coefficient of y on both sides. What number is in front of y? Negative 1. If you're not convinced of that, put a 1 there. It's a negative 1. So we have to divide by that negative 1. We're going to divide by negative 1 everywhere. Okay, let's see what happens. What's negative 1 divided by negative 1? 1. And 1y is just y. When you divide by the identical thing, it becomes 1. We don't need to show the 1, it's just y. Okay. What's negative 2 divided by negative 1? How many negative 1s go into negative 2? 2. It's a negative divided by a negative, positive 2. Use that same logic here. It's a positive divided by a negative. What's 5 divided by negative 1? Negative 5. So it becomes minus 5. And there's our equation in slope-intercept form. Okay? So now we're going to graph it. Let's go ahead and write down the slope. What's my slope number? It's 2, but how should I write it? 2 over 1. And the y-intercept, the b value is negative 5. So you could write negative 5 or 0, negative 5. Okay? So let's graph that. First, I'm going to write down the equation. Y equals 2x minus 5. And let's see if we can get like 3 points. Where am I going to start? At the bottom. What number, though? Yeah, so go from the origin, go 5 lower. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right there. And then we're going to use the slope, 2 over 1. We're going to go up 2 spots, across 1 to the right. Up 2 spots, across 1 to the right. I can even go back to my original one and do the opposite. Down 2 and to the left 1. And there I have 4 points, which is more than enough to tell my line will do something like this. Okay. All right. Any questions? Let's do 2 more. All right. Number 2. 5x plus 15y equals negative 45. Okay, let's try this one. So the rules are the same. We're going to take our x term, add the opposite. And the opposite here is negative 5x. And then on the other side of the equal sign, we're going to do the same thing. Okay, so by now we could see, okay, this is 0. It cancels out. We're going to bring down negative 15y. I'm sorry, positive 15y. Thank you, good catch. Yeah, it's plus, so it's a positive 15y. Equals, well, what am I going to write on the right-hand side? Well, remember, we can't combine them. One's a constant, one's a... So keep them separate. Keep them separate. I'm going to write negative 5x first, and then minus 45 second. Okay? So now I have that. So what's my next step? Yeah, divide by 15 on all sides. You're going to divide by 15. Because 15 divided by 15 cancels, it's just y. Now, we got to know our fractions. Because negative 5 over 15, well, the thing is, the 15's on the bottom. If the 15 was on the numerator, yeah. It's a negative divided by a positive, so our answer will be negative. So it's a fraction that I have to reduce. What number can I reduce by? 5. Divide by 5. Divide both of them by 5. So negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So it's actually negative 1/3. Don't forget the x. And now I have negative 45 divided by 15. How many 15s go into 45? No, that would be, yeah, that would be 60. 3. Yeah, 15 goes into 45 3 times, but I got the minus there, so it's negative 3. Okay, so that's what may be a trouble point. You got to think through all these fractions and divisions and whatnot. Okay, because now we know the slope. It's negative 1/3. We know the y-intercept, negative 3. We can graph this. Okay. So let's graph this one. We're going to call it y equals negative 1/3 x minus 3. Okay. So we know where we're going to start at negative 3 on the y-axis. So let's look for negative 3 right there. And then the slope is negative 1/3. Do I go up or down? Down 1 to the right 3. I can also go up 1 to the left 3. And I know this is correct, or I have a good idea it's correct, because it should be descending. It should be going down. So there we have our line. Okay. Okay, let's do one more. Number 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is going to be the last one. negative x minus 2y equals negative 8. Okay. So let's go ahead and see what that gives us. What should I do on both sides first? Plus 1x. Remember, don't forget that x. This is negative 1x, so we're going to plus 1x on both sides. Okay, negative 1x, positive 1x, that's 0, it cancels. Let's bring down whatever's on the left side now. I see a minus 2y. Bring it down for your next step. Now, what's on the right side? Yeah. 1x. And then what else? Negative 8, so minus 8. Okay. That's what comes down. And now we want to get rid of the coefficient, negative 2. So we're going to divide by negative 2. Okay, so let's see here. Negative 2 divided by negative 2. They cancel, making just y. What number do I have here now? It's a fraction. Yeah. Think of it as negative 1/2. That negative can stay on the bottom or go to the top. It doesn't matter. You just need one negative. So it's negative 1/2. And now I have negative 8 divided by negative 2. Positive 4. Yeah. So this is our new equation in slope-intercept form. And so I know my slope is negative 1/2. And the y-intercept is 4 or 0, comma 4. Okay? So let's go ahead and graph this one. I see a few people writing, so I'm going to just wait. But you can just write down the equation, your new equation, on your last graph and graph it yourself. It's going to cross at positive 4. And now the slope is negative 1/2, so down one space, across 2. Or up one space to the left 2. Okay, so your graph should look like this. On the y-axis at 4, down 1 over 2. And there is the line. Okay, so today's assignment is on delta. Delta math. We'll do 1 together, and then I'll leave you to do 8 on your own, okay? So